Hey y'all, welcome to the Motivation Babe podcast. I am your host, Hills, the Motivation Babe, and I am on a mission to empower you and thousands of women every single day. I think of the Motivation Babe podcast as your go-to resource for mindset talks that give you the confidence to become the best version of yourself. I am so honored you are here. Get ready to level up as we dive in. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Motivation Babe podcast. It's me, it's your girl, it's Hills. I am your motivational bestie. I am your hype woman, and I want to see you win. Y'all, today's episode, get ready. We are shaking things up. I am so beyond excited to introduce Kacia Fitzgerald to y'all. Okay, y'all, if you do not know Kacia, this is the funny story, actually, Kacia, of how I found you. You popped up on the podcast suggestions, and I always see empower her. And I was like always drawn to it, and listening to those quick, short pep talks you give, like always got my attention. And here we are, really quick. I connect with a lot of the topics you bring to the table in the EmpowerHER podcast, but I mean, just to touch on your background, I know you're a multi-passionate entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you have your event coming up I'm so excited for. And ultimately, you're just one of my favorite podcasters. And I know you're on a mission to help women unapologetically be themselves, share themselves and their message with the world. So without further ado, Kacia, I mean, hi, I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited. It's like, I mean, you're such a hype girl. So thank you so much for all of your energy and enthusiasm. I am pumped to connect with you and your community and just honored to be on your show. So thank you for having me, girl.
I literally thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, like our energies together are going to like be incredible because yes, I just vibe with you so much. But Kacia, okay, I want to talk about a lot of things today that I know a lot of people are going to gain so much value from. We're going to talk about podcasting. We're going to talk about some of the mindset, the real things that we all experience when we're stepping into our purpose, when we're diving into something new. But before we get there, tell us about you. Tell us about your background and man, your journey, because you just continue to evolve and grow and just like be like really step into your purpose. So take us on your journey.
Thank you. So really, I started with this gut feeling in my stomach that there was something more for me, like viscerally in my body, which I feel like a lot of women listening into this can connect with that, where, you know, I did the thing that I thought that I was supposed to do. And then when I got there, I looked around and I was like, this can't be it for me. Like, this is not it. I went to college and I got my corporate job and I started working my way up the ladder. And to be honest with you, I never hated my managers. I had great career trajectory. I made great income. I had great titles. On paper, it made sense, which actually made it more confusing because I was like, this was supposed to be the good thing. And in comparison to other people, like I'm crushing it right now, but it internally felt so unaligned. And because we become a byproduct of the expectations of our peer group, so many of my girlfriends at the time from college, my then boyfriend, now husband, like had these linear paths. They're like, this is just what we do. And I was like, this is not it for me. Like, it's just not. And I'm not saying that being an entrepreneur is more than not being an entrepreneur, but I'm just saying to the women that listen into a show like this, it's like, you know what I'm talking about, where it's just like, there's something else I'm supposed to do. Like, I want to use my voice. I want to make an impact. I want to start that thing. I want to take that action, but we are our own worst critics. And then our environment is often not conducive to our growth because we're, you know, afraid to take that first step, like we were kind of leading into, or we have all these thoughts that are going around in our head saying, I can't do it, good for her, but not for me. And it's just a bunch of BS, to be honest. But I didn't know, which I think a lot of women can maybe connect with this thought too, is like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I was in the wrong lane, which was extra confusing and resulted in a lot of like ugly cries on my bathroom floor where your snot and your mascara get together in your mouth and you choke on your spit. Like, you know. And I was saying to my now husband, I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, what am I supposed to do? So I decided to start something on the side. So a lot of people out there, especially on social media, talk about this whole like jump and the net will appear and like quit your job, live your best life. And I get that, but it wasn't practical for me because my husband and I moved from Seattle to New York City for him to go to NYU dental school. My last corporate job was at Google in corporate recruiting. And I decided to build my first business, which my background was actually in network marketing. I built it before and after work. And I just kept growing it. And I started to like see the bigger vision of what could happen. And eventually it got to an opportunity cost situation where I was making more with my side hustle than my full-time job. But I was still so obsessed with the process of building it and falling in love with being an entrepreneur and learning all these skills that I would have actually done it longer, but it got to a situation where it didn't actually make sense for me to stay, which is why I left the corporate world in April of 2015. And built that business for a few years. And then we moved to San Diego. And then that gut feeling came up again that I was in the wrong lane. And it was actually way more confusing this time because I had even more on paper of what I thought made sense. I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I was speaking to 10,000 plus women at conventions, getting to do all this really cool stuff. And I felt really confused because I'm like, I already know how to do this. Like, why do I want to go do something else? So I decided to start a podcast at the end of 2018 with the intention that I didn't see the type of podcast that I wanted. There wasn't a lot of them in this space that were like, come with me, let's figure this out together. Yeah. I'm going to pull back the curtain. It was a lot of women that I admire and respect, and some have actually even turned into friends that felt like they were a couple steps ahead of me. Yeah. And they were saying like, don't worry, girl, you'll get through it. Here I am on the other side. And I was like, dang, like I wish that someone would tell me how much it sucks to feel so confused and just be really honest. And so I was like, well, and you know, to anyone listening into this, I think sometimes if it's not being represented the way that you think it should, it's because you are supposed to be the representation. And when I took radical responsibility for that, I was like, well, shoot, I better start this freaking podcast. And I just was really transparent with my community. And I was really honest, just like you are on your show, of just like, I'm not trying to fake it till I make it. I'm just trying to be really real and just hope that I'll like faceplant my way to getting where I want to go. And that turned into a massive community around my show, Empower Her, which resulted in me building out a podcast course and then a amplified course to help existing podcasters monetize. And now our first big live event for 500 plus women in Phoenix. And it's turned into merch lines and speaking opportunities and all these crazy things. But it's just because I started and I was sweaty and awkward and uncomfortable. And I was like, what if nobody listens into my show? And then immediately after, what if a lot of people do? And I'm like, where's the sweat? And why is it coming from all these places that I didn't even know I could sweat? And then here we are, Hillary. So yeah, that's how I got here.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I want to listen to that story. I want all of us to listen to that story on repeat. The things that came out to me were feeling confused and gut feeling, because I feel this and we live through this. When we do have our intuition, our gut, you know, your heart, whatever it is, like telling you something, but we avoid it. Like we don't tap into that because we're scared. What could you tell the person who is right here in that moment of my gut saying to do this? I don't feel aligned.
So the first time that really comes up, it's so common to want to shove that feeling down because as humans, primarily, we're wired to stay safe and keep ourselves in familiar thought patterns. And we don't want to take that first step because it's unfamiliar, even if we know it could be really good. So often we stay in mediocre relationships, mediocre careers. We have mediocre health because it's the unknown is scary. So that first time that you do it, I always encourage people to ask yourself, like, what can I do in the next 24 hours to take one step in the right direction, to get that momentum, to get that confidence, to get going? Because the first time is the hardest, because you can't look back at your track record and say, last time I did this thing, it did, and I followed my intuition, it worked out. You can look back to your track record and say, you know, I've done hard things in my life that I didn't know how I would handle it. And here I am on the other side. We can find that evidence, but it's hard to take that first step of really honoring that gut feeling, but just reminding yourself that it's always the hardest the first time. But then a future version of you is going to be really grateful that you took that first step that first time, because then you get that track record that you can look back on. So the first time when I left, when I started this side business, when I was working a full-time job, that was really scary. The second time when I left Google to start my own business and grow with that full-time, that was less scary. Still scary, a little bit less scary because I had my track record. The third time I did it, when that gut feeling came up, I was like, I'm going to have to jump. And the thing about it is I knew that I was capable. I knew I had to listen to my own intuition, but I also knew that I was going to have to go back to being a beginner. And that is really hard, right? Because we know not to compare ourselves to other people, but what I actually struggle with more is comparing myself to a prior version of myself when the circumstances were different. So when I was building my network marketing business and I was, 4 years into it, I'm getting to speak on stages and I know how to mentor people and I know how to grow it. And I've got proof of concept, like my income and the impact and all of that. But then when I decided to start my own thing, I'm like, I don't know how the hell to do this. And then I had to start back over at square one. And square one means you suck. Yeah. Like you just suck and you don't get to skip that stage. And even if you have transferable skills, like I felt confidence in my ability to figure things out. And I felt like I knew some about like how to build a community and stuff like that. Like there was some transferable skills, but I still had to start at the beginning. So for the woman that's needing to take action, let's just take even like a health goal. Maybe you want to run a marathon. Majority of people, myself included, can't run a marathon tomorrow, but I sure as hell can sign up for one, right? You can't launch a podcast tomorrow, but you can find a course about it, right? You can't maybe write a whole book tomorrow, but you can reach out to someone and, you say your vision with the world to get some more skin in the game. Maybe you can't move to that new city tomorrow, but you can have a conversation with your significant other about how you don't want to be where you're at anymore and you need to make a change. So what can you do to get that momentum going? That's what I would recommend. It's so simple, but also so freaking powerful. If you actually do it, it's a game changer.
Start building the momentum in your life by taking action and not being afraid to be a beginner again. Build a track record and that's it.
Yep.
When we don't have the past experience to fall back on, we have no concept. We have no context, right, of what we're doing. So I always say, just throw it at the wall and see what sticks, just do it and give yourself that opportunity. Y'all, maybe it's time for you listening. There is something that's been on your heart, been on your gut, and it's time to give yourself that opportunity to build a momentum in your life and take action towards your dreams, the goals that you put on your vision board at the beginning of the year. We are almost at the halfway point of this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this, to everyone listening, what's stopping you?
Yeah.
The only person, and y'all know I say this, the only person stopping you is you. Kacia, talk to us about that. Overcoming the mindset of, and yet we're talking about, yes, building momentum, taking the action, right? Mm-hmm. But what about when you're just so in your head and it's like almost like the analysis paralysis.
Yep. It's because especially women that listen into this show and women like you and I too, we have big dreams and a big vision of where we want to go. And we're not yet the person that can accomplish those things. But we live in an instant gratification culture in society where we want things yesterday and we think that quicker means more success. So what we have to navigate is the fact that we're here wherever we are now, and where we want to go, there's probably a big distance in between where we are now and where we want to go. So we have to kind of look at that with a little bit of a reframe that we actually need that space in order to qualify us to be able to handle what's coming next, because we're not the person that can accomplish that. It's not something to be scared about. It's something to understand the path is actually needed for you to build up the mindset and the tools, just the coping mechanisms and belief in yourself. You need that to get there. And it's interesting because I work with a lot of podcasters, and one of my programs, it was newer podcasters, and I was on a Zoom call with them. And I was like, how many of you would love to have 1 million downloads on your episode or on your podcast this month? And the chat went wild. They're like, yeah, Keish, me. Like, these are like 6 months into podcasters. And just for sake of reference, my podcast, EmpowerHER, has about 250,000 downloads a month at the time that we're recording this. And I said to them, I was like, I love that for you guys, but me, I don't even want that yet. Keyword is yet. I do want to make that type of impact, but I don't want to rob myself of the opportunity to build up the skills to actually be able to maintain it. Because if I had quadruple the audience size tomorrow, I don't have the back end of my systems set up to actually, connect with my community the way that I want to. I don't have enough team to support that type of influx in my business. And really the biggest thing is I don't have as much confidence as I have. I do not have enough confidence in myself yet, although I'm constantly building it every single day in that path to be able to handle the negative feedback that also comes with that amount of reach. Right? I can handle where I'm at now and I get to build up that skill along the way. But it almost like that reframe has been so powerful for me because I see that journey and that path is actually needed. And it's not a scary thing saying like, oh my gosh, you can't handle it yet. Instead, it's like, what if you just trust that the timing is exactly where you need to be? But to your point, if you don't take radical responsibility to actually starting, then you're never going to get going on that path. And I don't want you to get to the end of your TBD amount of days here with coulda, woulda, shouldas or resentment because you lived your life based off of somebody else's success criteria. And then you actually resent them because your vision for your life, anyone listening into this, it's unlike my vision. It's unlike yours, Hillary. Like it's unlike their sisters, their best friends, because every single one of us is gifted a unique vision. And I believe it's our job to get out of our own damn way and actually make that a reality. Right?
Mic drop. Yes. Okay. Now I want to get into some good stuff. I'm all about mindset. I'm all about all these things, the real things that we're all experiencing. And I just appreciate the honest conversation we're having. And we're just unapologetically how crazy this is, like one of your values, just talking as real women who are trying to do the damn thing and help others along the way.
Preach.
So what I want us to do is transition into podcasting because Kacia, like I will never forget. I went and sat on my floor in the closet in my apartment and I clicked record and I just started talking. Amazing. Oh my gosh, and I figured it out along the way. I did it alone. Google's my best friend. But I'm all about, and if I've done something, I want to make sure I tell the next person who's trying to do this thing so they're not making the same mistakes or they're not going through all the hoops that I had to go through. So I know that we have lots and lots of friends, listeners, audience followers here who have thought, it's crossed their mind. I want to start a podcast. To y'all who are ready to start a podcast, Kacia, talk us through what that looks like, what that means. Like, give us the general, all right, this is how you're going to start. And then I know you can dive deep on so many things, but just kind of keep it high level for us and tell us how we can start.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is maybe wiping away some of the thoughts that you have about podcasting in general, because sometimes what happens is I want to start this, but the next thing that follows that is the market's so saturated. Okay. So let me just give for the analytical brain, which is not typically mine, but I am full of stats because I know a lot of women think about this, is podcasting is not saturated. Okay. Of the total amount of podcasts, which is about 2.3 million total shows that are out there, less than 60% of them have released more than 10 episodes. Okay. And of the 60% that have released 10 episodes, less than half of those have released any episodes in the last 90 days. So why I share that. Okay. So we're talking about 25% of the total amount of podcasts are consistently putting out podcast content and have actually been in the game long enough to put out more than 10 episodes. So right away, if you know who you want to serve and why you want to serve them, and you figure out a way to actually stay consistent with this, you are going to be leaps and bounds ahead of anybody else because you're actually just going to be showing up for it. Right. So thinking of the reframe of that, of okay, it's saturated. Could I do it? So many other people are doing it. The average podcast listener listens to 6 to 7 shows a week. And she sometimes graduates to different types of shows or based off what's going on in her world. So just the narrative around podcasting, I think sometimes holds us back from this desire that we have in our heart, or telling ourselves that, what I don't have to say or what I have to say doesn't matter to people, or I don't have a big enough social following or whatever it is. Here's the thing. Somebody needs to hear someone exactly in your situation with your circumstances that they're going to connect with, and they won't connect with someone else. Right? I'm not going to be someone's go-to person if they're trying to figure out how to juggle being a mom, because I'm not a mom right now. Right? So someone needs to see you. If you're an introvert with crippling anxiety and you're I just have this feeling that I want to start a podcast, it's because you are also proof of what's possible for another person, and she's going to connect with you. So wipe all this crap away and understand that if you're gifted this vision, you can figure this out. Right? To your point, Hillary, it's like Google can be your best friend. Obviously, I've got course and all that stuff that can help you. But beyond that, like it's literally just deciding that you're not interested in doing it, but you're committed to doing it. Because at first, you're not going to be very good. Just like we talked about with anything. When you put your first episode out there, you're going to be so awkward and you just can't escape that. Like you can't skip that first step. So going into it with the mindset that's like, when you're picking any goal that you're working on, you're also choosing the problems associated with that goal. But to me, right? Like to me, I'm like, okay, I will navigate the problem of feeling uncomfortable putting myself out there and feeling sweaty and awkward and wondering like, what's this person going to think about it? And all of the stuff that I felt at the beginning of podcasting, to not have the problem of this feeling in me that I'm trying to shove down and pretend like I don't care about, of wanting to start a show and get my message out into the world. That feeling and that discomfort and the potential regret of not doing it and the impact that I could make, or the income that I could make, and the community that I could build, and the opportunities that I would give to a future version of me, that problem is so much bigger than the problem of taking action and being sweaty and awkward and wondering what people will think about you. Cause like, even if like Larry in his parents' basement, like chugging his haterade, doesn't like your podcast, who gives an F? Who cares? Because somebody does need to hear you. So I think it's really a lot of it is honestly just the mindset of understanding that you're worthy and capable of doing it first and foremost. And then what I really like to talk to women about in this space is I want you to first think about like, who would it be that you're most excited to serve? Because a lot of times people go into podcasting really, really broad. And I'm not saying you have to really, really niche down, but it's more so that you need to understand who is the ideal person that if somebody slid into my DMs and was like, oh my gosh, the Motivation Babe podcast is my jam. Like, this is my favorite thing. What stage of life are they in? What problem is your podcast helping them solve? Like anyone listening to this, where are they at in their life? Because when you're podcasting, especially when you're recording episodes by yourself, which you know, Hillary too, you have to be able to visualize someone in your head. Otherwise, you don't hit home with anyone if you're talking too broadly. So it builds this connective tissue with your audience, but also it helps you actually want to stay showing up because you feel compelled to serve that particular person. So first is your avatar. And then secondly, it's like thinking about your positioning, right? So obviously this podcast is similar to mine in that it's a come with me feel of a podcast. The positioning is like, we're girlfriends, right? You're not trying to say, hey, I'm Hillary. Here's 10 steps to like everything that you need to know because my shit is always together. Sorry, I don't know if I can say shit, but now I said it twice. And you know, like that's not the positioning. You're not positioning like an expert. Are there times and places for an expert? Hell yes. But understanding what is your actual positioning. For example, I helped this woman who's a veterinarian start a podcast that she wanted to have for her, you know, clients that come into her veterinarian. She's definitely positioning like, you know, an expert, like of what you give your dog and like what happens with whatever, right? I don't want a veterinarian podcaster that's like, let's figure this out together. It's like, girl, you're the expert. Tell me what to do. Right? My dog's puking or whatever. Versus with us, it's more about community building and saying like, girl, if I can do this, you can do this too. So it's first avatar. Second, it's positioning. And then really it's as simple as being like, let's freaking start the show. Let's actually just go and understanding like, what's the type of format of your show? I really like to do market research with my community. I don't care if you have 100 followers listening to this or 100 million followers. It doesn't matter. It's actually, in fact, I think it's even easier when you've got a smaller audience at first because you can really get to know them, right? Mm-hmm. So asking them like, what types of episodes like do you love to hear on the show? What's your favorite length? Where do you listen in? Getting this like curiosity lens on asking your existing community what it is that they might be interested in and reminding yourself that your podcast is actually not about you. It's about the value that you can add to the person that you're most excited to serve with your show. And I think about Ashley, my avatar. She has all the things on paper, but she's got this gut feeling she wants more. She tries to shove it down, but she's who I was when I started in the entrepreneurial space, right? So I think from a podcasting perspective, it's very in line with anyone that's even like building a business to kind of like regroup because it's hard to stay consistent with something that you don't perceive has a direct ROI straight out the gates. If for anyone that's entrepreneurs listening to this, it's like, should I start a show? Can I monetize it straight out the gates? It's like, yeah, you can drive to your existing products and programs, and affiliate marketing is a really great way to monetize straight out the gates. But it's more so asking yourself, what's going to make me want to show up for this? Because podcasting is a beautiful platform that's growing like crazy, but it's for people that want to stay consistent. Yeah. And ask yourself too, do you like podcasts? Don't start it because you think it's trendy and cool. If you don't like talking, It's not your platform. You don't have to be an extrovert or super outgoing because remember, like, you don't even know Hillary right now if I have pants on. You don't even know, right? Truthfully. So I think it's like reminding yourself it's also an introvert's platform too. I'm an outgoing extrovert, but it's an introvert's platform too.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are some basics like straight out the gates that aren't super technical.
I love that. Wipe the slate clean, y'all.
Yeah.
I think that's something we actually can carry in all parts of our lives is we have the preconceived notions that we bring to the table when we're starting something new, when we have an idea. And I think this is a tool to use in all areas of your life. Wipe the slate clean because today is a new day. You're not the same person you were yesterday. You can literally, I'm all about, you can click the reset button right now and change the trajectory of your life.
For sure.
But you have to come with that clean slate. And that's step one. Okay. For podcasting, for the big things that you want, wipe it clean and give yourself that place to grow from. Something I really want to touch on, especially in my podcast and in everything that I do, I am very purpose driven. When you have your mindset tied to your passion and your purpose and having just like to serve and to connect, y'all, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to make sure, I'm helping the person listening to this realize, don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about the dollars.
Yes.
You worry about connecting with the person you're meant to connect with. And all I say is if my podcast, if an episode I launch can hit one person's heart and I can get that one DM, my mission is served. It's for that one person.
Preach. I love this. And it's so important because it ties back into like, we all want to feel that contribution in the world, right? And if this is your platform, it's like, girl, freaking go, because we need your perspective. We need your voice. And here's the other devil's advocate. If someone's like, oh, but what if I don't want to do this for forever? Well, then you just stop, right? Like the reality, right? Like, is like, sometimes we get caught up in like, what if I start this thing and I don't want to do it in a year? It's like, okay, well then you just changed your mind. Let's normalize changing your mind. You won't know if you like it, right? Like you won't know if you like it unless you do it. Sitting around like waiting to wonder, it's like, you got to start, because even if you don't like it, we also don't like celebrate the things that we try that actually don't work or don't feel aligned, because then we can just at least shove them out of our mind and we get to build belief in ourselves that we can take that first step. And that is crucial, right? Like I launched a program 6 months ago and it sold very well, but a month into it, it was so unaligned. I was like, I'm never doing this again. And I just canceled it. And it would have been a lot of income into the business. And I was like, I'm just not doing things that aren't aligned. Like, it's just not worth it. I've got one shot here. So, but I did it. So at least I could say I gave it a full effort and I know that it's not aligned. So I'm not going to launch a program like that again. Boom, it's done. Right. Unless you try.
Aligned action. I think the biggest message here, I know I wanted to give you a really good taste of how to start a podcast, because I see you in the DMs. I hear you and I want to help and serve you. So I knew Kacia was going to be the perfect opportunity to talk about podcasting. But I think that even honestly, the larger theme of this episode, y'all, it's taking the action. Mm-hmm. That's what I think you need to hear today. And that's what's resonating in all of this message. Yeah. Trust yourself and take the action. And let it happen. Let everything unfold for you. Just get out of your head, get out of your way, and give yourself a clean slate to do it. And just watch. And just watch. I say, live in expectation of what's the best that could happen.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So often we're playing it out, right? To like, oh my gosh, what happens if this doesn't work out? I'm like, what if it's 1,000,000 times better than you ever thought that it could be? Yes. And you're just sitting there thinking, how in the world? Because that's how I feel about my career right now, to be honest. And I've had seasons of ups and downs, of course, right? Like being an entrepreneur means you have your best day and your worst day in the same hour sometimes. Like that's just what you're buckled up for. But for me, it's like right now at the time that we're recording this, I'm in such an aligned season and such pure excitement where I'm toggling back to this prior version of me, especially right now with the podcast, as we're building out our first event for the podcast community. I'm toggling back to this girl that I was 3.5 years ago that was like, why is this gut feeling in me? Holy crap. I'm just going to take action. I'm going to start this podcast. I'm going to listen to my own intuition, right? Obviously COVID threw everything to for live events. Like that was a little bit of a curveball, but here we are like planning this first like massive live event for this podcast community. This is what I always dreamed of. It didn't matter how long it would have taken me to get to this point because I knew that if it was in me, it was because I was the person that could figure it out. Just like anyone listening into this, it's in you because you're resourceful enough. If you're gifted the vision, you're also gifted the resourcefulness, and everything else is on Google.
Okay. But also Google can take a lot of time. So I want you to tell us about how you have so much to offer. I want to talk about the event in just a little bit, but tell us what people can dive into in the 2 different courses that you have.
Yeah. So I have a course that's done in a cohort because I've seen so much power in women in community where we take 25 women from idea to actually launching their show in 4 weeks. It's our intro podcast course. And it's designed for people that have that gut feeling, or maybe they have an idea, but they know they're a little bit scattered and they need more clarity and direction. We talk a lot about niche and format of your show. The course is self-paced because it's designed for really busy women, but in between each phase, we do group Zoom calls. So you get that support, that built-in hype squad. I'm there to answer all your questions. And then after you launch, you move into our graduate community. So that's for people that have never launched a podcast. They just want to get into that. It's a 4-week course. And then I have an amplified program, which is for existing podcasters that are like, Kacia, like, I want to take this to the next level. I want to grow this more. I want to monetize this. I want to have products and programs and services that are more aligned and take it to the next level. This has a one-on-one component with me as well as a self-paced component. And then a group of other women that are like, we don't just want to launch shows, but like we're ready to go to the next level that you get plugged into after. And that's my more accelerated program that is not done in a cohort. It's much more one-on-one, like customized to that person and what their goals and visions are. So those are my 2 courses.
Definitely going to link all that in the show notes for y'all. But I do want to kind of save the best for last. Tell us about the event, the Phoenix event happening.
Thank you so much, Hillary. I'm so excited. And I feel like a lot of women will be able to connect with, like, when you feel like a vision, like for people that are taking action right now and they're moving in the right direction, and you can feel that you're just doing something that you know so deeply was like in you. And now you're birthing it out into the world where it feels so exciting and then also really scary at the exact same time. And you're managing all these emotions. That's where I'm at now, because I'm hosting my first big live event. Like you said, it's in Phoenix, Arizona, October 21st through the 23rd. It's called EmpowerHER Live. We have 8 keynote speakers, a ton of opportunity to connect. We're doing cool things like we have like a live podcast that we're doing, and it's for women that are interested in personal development. They have dreams and goals and visions on their heart. They want to meet other women that just get it and have a fire lit under their booty to actually go take action, but also this like deep self-awareness of I'm worthy, I'm capable, and I've got the tools to actually go take that next step. So it's going to be a 3-day event. It's going to be 500 plus women. Like I said, in Phoenix.
Oh my gosh.
We secured all of at the time that we're recording this, we secured all of our speakers, and we're working with our sponsors that are doing like really cool things for the women, and like it's just the swag bags and the people. The speakers of this event are all people that I looked up to before I met them. And a couple that I literally cried and screamed when they said yes.
I cannot wait. And I'm going to be there.
Yay. Oh, I can't wait to squeeze you. I'm
going to be there for this because there is, y'all, if you've never experienced a live event, there is nothing. And I always make this like analogy. Have you ever been in a room surrounded by other people who truly believe in you? It is the most magical freaking feeling. And if you've never experienced it, you deserve to experience it. That is the power of live events. And especially an event like the Empower Her event. Holy moly. I just know the magic that comes from it. You leave with your cup full and you leave a better person when you're just so on, like you just so turned on to your ideas. And you're in a pure state of like momentum, bliss, let's go. So there is so much power in events, and I'm just so excited for you. And honestly, just thank you. Thank you for this conversation. Like, you have obviously achieved some amazing success, and you building out and growing an online business and a podcast and this platform and this community. People like you help pave the way. And coming on a podcast, with me today and helping to connect with my listeners and knowing that if you can do it, she can do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love you. I just want to hug you. You're so great. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy that we're connected, because thank you so much. I think it's also really powerful for you to also remember, to anyone listening into this, but specifically to you, Hillary, that it's like you said, you're doing it for you because you've got this vision and this impact that you want to make, but you're doing it for someone else out there that needs to see someone in your exact circumstances, show her what's possible, because it's hard to be what you can't see. Right. So if you've got this in you, it's like you're doing it for you, but you're doing it for her too. And I love that message. And I love that that's what you're all about. And I'm just happy to be here with you and support you in any way that I can. You're awesome.
Oh, Kacia, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. This episode, I am just so excited to share this with the world. I'm going to link all of Kacia's info on the courses, the event, and you can find her in the show notes below. But Kacia, leave us with something. Give us a golden nugget, something that the women who are listening right now can take away.
I just really want to remind you that you do have what it takes. And it's so easy when you're sitting wondering, like, can I take the next step? Can I get to the next level? And you look around at everybody else and you think that she has something that you don't, or she's got magical unicorn dust in her veins. And it's like, she doesn't have anything that you don't have. Yeah. It's just, she's probably started and failed, fell down. And when she was down, she figured out what she needed to learn. And then she got herself back up. And remind yourself that when you feel like you're struggling, that season still serves you because it builds grit and character and resilience. And you need those skills to get you to the next level. You don't always want it to be rainbows, butterflies, and happy little unicorns coming out of your butt and smooth sailing, because you don't learn when everything's going your way. So whatever season you're in, it serves you. You have what it takes. Stop looking around at what everybody else is doing, thinking that she has something that you don't, comparing her carefully curated content to your behind the scenes, messy bun, zit in the middle of your forehead, just got into a fight with your significant other. Like, you've got it. And she doubts herself too, but we're in this together, and your story and your voice and your message, it's needed in this world. So do it for you and do it for her too.
We're in this together. All right, guys, make sure you screenshot, you tag us. You can find Kacia Fitzgerald and the EmpowerHER.podcast. Y'all know where to find me at the Motivation Babe _ and the Motivation Babe podcast. All right, guys, until next time, sending you so much light and love. I can't wait to talk to y'all soon. Bye.